So the big question is this: how do you lose all the weight that you want and actually keep it off for the rest of your life, while trying to make sense of all the noise that comes from the weight loss industry? That is the question. And this podcast will give you the answers.
G'day everybody and welcome to the next episode of the Weight Loss Secrets podcast. My name is Baron Grant and I'm rapt to have you with me today so we can go through a few more tips and tricks that are going to be helpful for you in not only losing the weight, but losing it all and keeping it off for the rest of your life. And today I'm really going to uncover the best foods to be eating to lose weight. And I want to break a little fallacy here. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, how old you are, or anything like that, what your background is or anything. The best foods for losing weight are always the best foods for losing weight. I see a lot of advertising that, you know, over 40 men need to do this and over 50 women need to do this and this miracle superfood that's going to make you lose weight. And I talk to people about how they don't understand they're not losing weight, but Baron, I'm taking apple cider vinegar in the morning. How come I'm not losing weight? And so all these crazy things that people are putting out there, but the cold hard truth of it is this: it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, any of that stuff. The best food for losing weight is always the best food. And another thing I have to say, here's the other caveat: it doesn't matter what you like. I could do a whole nother podcast episode about this. I talk to people all the time and they say, but Baron, I don't like that food, or I don't like this food. And I sometimes in a mocking tone might say something along the lines of, yeah, but do you like Krispy Kremes or do you like McDonald's? It doesn't matter what we like. Those foods have got you to where you are right now. So we have to take ownership of that and go, all right, I need to change my palate. I need to change the way that I eat, what I eat, and I need to start liking the right stuff. Whether we like something or not is of no consequence. It's of no relevance. We might put some value on it and think, well, but I like eating these avocados that are really high in calories, but I really like eating that McDonald's that's really high in calories and high in carbs and sugar and fats and salts and everything else. But I really like eating X, Y, or Z. So if I like it, that should matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we like. It matters what our bodies need. And because we live in this world of convenience and ease and high sugar, we start to believe that those things are important or good and we add value to it somehow. But it doesn't matter what we like. So today I'm going to go through the right food. The right food. Whether you like it or not is completely irrelevant. And you've got to decide whether it is how much you want it. How much do you really want it? Are you willing to stop eating the foods that you love and stop loving them and start loving the foods that your body needs? So if you're overweight now, it's obviously because of what you've had in the past, and that's cool because that means you're in control of making the change. So I just needed to say that at the start because sometimes I have heated discussions with people about water, you know, and they tell me, Baron, I don't like water. I'm like, I don't care if you like water. You got to drink water. That's what our bodies need. Yeah, but I like Pepsi Max or Diet Coke. And I'm like, bro, they're full of garbage. You can't just be eating that stuff or drinking that stuff. So water is what our body needs. Whether you like it or whether you don't is of no consequence. You got to start liking it. And, you know, when we talk about healthy foods, if you don't like them, so what? Start liking them or be happy when you look in the mirror with what you're currently looking at. So that's I don't pull any punches, so that's my straight up message for today. Because I want to go through the best foods for losing weight. And some of you may like them and you may not, but it doesn't matter. And the other little caveat that I need to put on top of this is that when I talk to people about the best foods for losing weight, what I really want to impress on you is that this is one way of losing weight. I think it's the best way, but this is one way because it's gives you one of the best chances to keep the weight off. Now, you can lose weight by drinking weight loss shakes, or you can lose weight by fasting or starving, or you can lose weight by a variety of other mechanisms. But always I want you to think about is, are these things that I can maintain for the long term, or are they not? If they're not, then it's pointless doing them because the weight will come back on at a frantic rate. So you've got to really think, what am I going to change now? What am I going to do now? And am I going to be able to live like that for the rest of my life? So the food that I talk about is based on making long-term changes for good. So we're not counting calories, we're not counting carbs, we're not doing macros, we're not looking at counting every single thing you put in your mouth. We're not having meals delivered to your door. We're not doing shakes, because none of that really is sustainable. Unless you really want to do that stuff, counting calories and all those details, 1% of the population is willing to do that sort of stuff. The vast majority who just want to lose some weight and be healthier aren't looking to be elite bodybuilders on stage. They generally don't want to be counting calories all day, every day. So the reason that I explain this is because the foods I'm going to talk about, you can eat in abundance without counting calories, without weighing and measure everything that you put in your mouth. Some things you've got to be a bit more careful on than others, but it's about having a strategy that can be long-term sustainable. So I've got to be careful because I like to keep these podcasts short and I've got lots of words. So I want to talk the best foods for losing weight, and they can really be broken into 3 categories. And we'll talk generally here, and later on in another podcast, we'll talk in more detail about how they process in our bodies and all that sort of stuff. But really, if you want to break it down, if you're going to wake up tomorrow and go, I'm going to eat the right food for losing weight, I'm going to talk about protein, veggies, and fruit. And for any of the Americans or people outside of Australia, vegetables, because I forget sometimes that we shorten everything over here for veggies. So number 1 is protein. Why do we want protein? Right? We want protein because protein turns off the hormones that make us feel hungry. Protein stops us feeling hungry. It's got lots of other benefits as well, but that is the one thing I want to talk about from a weight loss perspective, because you've got to reduce calories. If you want to lose weight, that's the main lever you got to pull. And if you don't do something to stop you feeling hungry, then guess what? You're going to hate life, and therefore you're going to quit. If you just wake up and you just eat low-calorie veggies all day and don't eat any protein, then you'll just feel hungry all day long. That will last 2 days and you'll quit and go back to what you were eating before. So we've got to increase protein, but it's got to be lean protein. So choosing the right protein is super important. The best lean protein comes from chicken, fish, eggs, and turkey. It's the best, right? So you've got all these levels of protein. That's the best protein, the best lean protein. We want low calorie protein, so low calorie but high in protein, so it stops us feeling hungry, but we're getting at a low calorie rate, so we're keeping all our calories nice and low below our BMR. That's where we're going to win. There are other things that have high protein, but if they're high calorie, they suck for weight loss. So don't get sucked into the mess around that sort of stuff. So they're the best, they're the premium, the best. You might love them, you might hate them, but they're still the best, whether you like them or whether you don't. So that's number 1. The second one is vegetables. So veggies are super important and they're awesome, but you got to pick the right ones. You got to be careful because some vegetables are high in carbohydrates. Carbs and sugar turn to fat really quickly in our bodies when we don't use the energy fast. So, and our body always craves that sort of stuff, right? So the carbohydrates that we got to be a little bit aware of, there's a whole list, but I'll give you a bit of a snapshot. So things like potato, pumpkin, sweet potato, peas, corn, all crap, because they're high carbohydrate foods. So we want to stay away from that sort of stuff. But go down the other path, things like broccoli, cauliflower, onions, tomato, capsicum, mushrooms, zucchinis, all your leafy greens, there's heaps more as well. But we want low calorie veggies, because low calorie veggies you can eat in bucket loads if you want. Don't need to weigh and measure stuff. You don't need to have 30 grams of this and 50 grams of that. Just have as much as you can fit on your plate. Have loads of that stuff. If you're accompanying it with a good amount of lean protein, then you're going to be low calorie and the weight will just fall off. It's really, really simple. The third thing is fruit. Now, fruit is not your best friend when it comes to losing weight because fruit contains sugar. Now, the sugar in fruit is the same as the sugar in chocolate. Don't be convinced by all the just bogus nonsense you hear about natural sugars versus processed sugars. Yeah, whatever. The thing with natural sugars versus processed sugars, they're all sugars and they process the same way in our bodies and will make us fat just as fast as eating chocolate if we're eating loads of natural sugar. So you've got to be careful in the types of sugar that you choose to eat. And you've got to be careful in the amounts of sugar that you choose to eat. Just because it's healthy doesn't mean it's good for weight loss. We're going to do another podcast just about that. And so be careful with your sugars. There are high sugar fruits, there are lower sugar fruits. They all contain sugar, all of them. So you can't just eat loads of it. Lots of the tropical fruits like your pineapples and your mangoes and your bananas and things like that, they're all quite high in sugar. Not great options when you're trying to lose weight. But things like apples and oranges, strawberries and blueberries and grapefruits, and there's a variety. Others, pears is another one, that are lower end of the sugar spectrum, and so they're a better option, right? And they've all got good stuff in them. So I want people to have fruit every day, but you've got to make sure you pick the right type of stuff. Don't be picking the real high sugar stuff, because it's like eating a Mars bar, right? So be aware of those things. So protein, veggies, and fruit is where it's at. So if you don't like them, start liking them. If you do like them, that's the sort of stuff you can eat. But if you get caught up eating crap in the middle of it, you still won't lose weight. And so we've got to be in calorie deficit. Remember that. That's the only mechanism for how we can actually lose weight. And every single program, every single structure, every single diet is trying to get you into calorie deficit. That is it. The challenge is picking the one and the approach that is sustainable. Remember, if you go back to my first podcast, I speak about 4 things that you need to do to lose weight. You need a positive mindset. You got to believe that you can actually do it. You need clean eating. It's got to be the right food every day, day in, day out. You got to drink plenty of water, whether you like it or whether you don't. It doesn't matter. You got to drink plenty of water, and you got to walk every single day. And if you do those things, you'll get to where you want to be in absolutely no time. Right? You should be losing 1 to 2 kilos a week. In all reality, if you're doing it right, and it depends on where your starting point is. Obviously, if you're much heavier, you'll lose much faster. If you're middle of the road, you'll lose a little slower than those guys at the top end. And if you're right near your goal weight, you'll lose a little slower again, because it's all scientific, right? Because when you get lighter, your BMR decreases. We'll talk about that in another episode, but you've got to be more aware of the foods you're eating as you get a little bit lighter. So that's where we're at. Protein, veggies, fruit, you mix that with water and walking, and it's a surefire way to lose a bucket load of weight. So hopefully today's session was helpful. You go away and can make some changes to the food that you're eating right now. And remember, it's not what you like, it's what's right.